Johnny Carson was a late-night television legend, known for his wit, charm, and ability to bring out the best in his guests. The Tonight Show host often had a way of getting his guests to relax and open up, sometimes to the point of revealing more than they might have intended. Over the years, Carson's show became famous not just for its comedy and entertainment, but for those rare moments when celebrities were incredibly honest, perhaps too honest, on TV. Here are 6 guests who were too candid on the iconic talk show, leaving viewers stunned and entertained. 1. Cher, the moment of brutal honesty. Cher has always been known for her bold personality, but on The Tonight Show, she took honesty to a whole new level. During one appearance, Johnny Carson asked Cher about her famous relationships and her thoughts on marriage. Without skipping a beat, Cher remarked that she had no real interest in getting married again, giving a brutally honest assessment of her previous experiences. She went on to discuss how difficult it was for her to remain in a relationship while balancing her career and public image. Cher didn't hold back when speaking about the pressures of being in the spotlight, and her candidness left Carson and the audience in awe. Her frankness set the tone for many future interviews, where celebrities would let down their guard and reveal the truths they usually kept hidden. 2. Muhammad Ali, unfiltered truths. Muhammad Ali was known for his incredible charisma both inside and outside the boxing ring. But on The Tonight Show, he also revealed a side that was surprisingly vulnerable. During one memorable interview, Ali opened up about his struggles with his faith, his views on racial issues, and the inner conflict that came with being both a public figure and a man of deep conviction. Ali's honesty about his own insecurities and his refusal to conform to societal expectations resonated with audiences in a powerful way. Carson, always the skilled interviewer, didn't shy away from asking tough questions, and Ali met them with unflinching honesty. His candidness about personal challenges, especially as a black man in America during the 1,960 seconds, was groundbreaking for the TMA. 3. David Brenner, Comic Confessions. David Brenner, a frequent guest on The Tonight Show, was known for his sharp wit and no-holds-barred comedic style. But during one appearance, Brenner dropped the usual comedy routine to give a deeply personal confession. He opened up about his struggles with anxiety, revealing to the audience just how much pressure being in the public eye had affected his mental health. Brenner's vulnerability was a rare moment in comedy, as he discussed the toll fame had taken on his personal life. What was even more shocking was his openness about how he coped with depression, turning what could have been a light-hearted appearance into a moment of profound honesty. Stay tuned for Part 2 as we dive deeper into more guests who gave Johnny Carson a glimpse into their true selves, leaving an unforgettable mark on the late-night talk show. As Johnny Carson's legendary run on The Tonight Show continued, more guests came forward with moments of raw honesty, revealing sides of themselves that audiences never expected. Whether it was discussing struggles with fame, personal trauma, or even their own flaws, these moments became defining points in their careers and left lasting impressions on both Carson and his viewers. Here are 3 more guests who took honesty to a level that was, at times, too real for TV. 4. Barbra Streisand. The unspoken struggles. Barbra Streisand, one of the most iconic and private figures in music, surprised viewers with her openness during an appearance on The Tonight Show. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Streisand spoke candidly about her fears of not being good enough. Despite her immense success, she shared her feelings of inadequacy in a profession that constantly demanded perfection. Carson, who was known for his light-hearted interviews, sat quietly as Streisand opened up about her emotional battles and her struggle with the pressures of fame. Her honesty about her insecurities was shocking to many, especially given the high regard in which she was held by millions around the world. Streisand's appearance was an important moment in TV history, reminding viewers that even the most successful celebrities are human, with deep struggles behind their glamorous facades. 5. Joan Rivers, a life team of honesty. Joan Rivers was a frequent guest on Carson's show, known for her biting humor and unapologetic attitude. However, one of her appearances stood out because it revealed a more personal side to the comedy legend. Rivers opened up about her own personal tragedies, including the loss of her beloved husband, Edgar Rosenberg, to suicide. Her raw honesty about her grief and how it shaped her comedic persona took everyone by surprise. Rivers admitted that comedy was her coping mechanism and that her humor, often harsh and self-deprecating, was a way to deal with the pain of her personal life. Her unflinching approach to talking about tragedy in such a public forum was groundbreaking and paved the way for future comedians to address difficult topics with honesty. Johnny Carson, ever the professional, allowed Rivers to share her most painful memories, showing his respect for her as both a performer and a person. It was an interview that many viewers still remember for its vulnerability and emotional depth. 6. Elton John, a public struggle. Elton John, the flamboyant rock star, was no stranger to the spotlight, but on The Tonight Show, he took the opportunity to reveal something much more personal and raw. In an emotional conversation with Carson, John opened up about his struggles with addiction and his journey toward sobriety. For a star of his magnitude, discussing such a sensitive topic in front of millions was a rare and brave move. John spoke honestly about the toll addiction had taken on his career and personal life, including his failed relationships and the self-destructive behavior that almost derailed his career. His vulnerability was a turning point in how public figures discussed their personal battles on television, especially in an era when addiction was often stigmatized and rarely talked about. Carson allowed Elton John to be open and honest, and in doing so, he helped normalize the conversation around mental health and addiction for a generation of viewers. Final thoughts. The magic of The Tonight Show was not just in the laughs, the jokes, or the dazzling performances. It was in those rare moments when celebrities dropped their public personas and showed their true selves. Johnny Carson's interviews were never just about entertaining. They were about humanizing his guests and allowing them to share their real, unfiltered thoughts. These 6 guests, in particular, took that honesty to new heights, offering unforgettable moments of vulnerability that resonated with audiences across the world. As Carson himself once said, "It's not just the funny moments that make The Tonight Show special. It's the real moments. The moments when we connect on a human level." Johnny Carson's show was known for moments of light-hearted humor, but it was the unguarded conversations that truly stood out. As we continue to explore the moments when celebrities bared their souls, let's take a look at a few more unforgettable appearances, where guests were incredibly candid, showing sides of themselves they hadn't shared with anyone before. These interviews were more than just TV gold. They were moments of raw honesty. 7. Steve Martin, the dark side of comedy. Steve Martin, one of the most inventive and unpredictable comedians of his time, was known for his absurd humor and surreal antics. However, during a Tonight Show appearance, Martin let his guard down and shared something unexpected: the loneliness and depression that often accompanied his fame. Steve Martin had reached the pinnacle of his career, with sold-out arenas and countless movie deals. But in a rare moment of sincerity, He admitted that fame had isolated him. He explained how the very thing that had once made Chaim happy, his comedy, had begun to feel hollow. Carson listened intently as Martin spoke of his struggles with mental health and the dark side of being in the public eye. It was a moment that revealed the complexity behind his public persona. For Martin, comedy was a way to escape his own emotional pain, but it was also something he had to confront in a public setting. This moment of vulnerability was surprising, especially considering Martin's reputation as a comedic genius who seemed untouchable. Carson's respectful listening allowed Martin to open up, marking one of the most honest interviews in the history of late-night TV. 8. Bette Midler, The Price of Perfection. Bette Midler, the legendary diva, known for her powerhouse voice and larger-than-life personality, shocked Carson and the audience when she spoke candidly about the price of perfection. During one interview, Carson asked Midler how she maintained her impressive career and iconic image, to which Midler answered with stunning honesty. She admitted that her need for perfection had often led her to personal and professional burnout. Bette shared how the constant pressure to be flawless in every performance had caused immense anxiety and self-doubt. She also discussed how her need for control over her image had led to difficulty in her relationships, both romantic and professional. For someone known for being so confident and self-assured, Bette Midler's openness about the struggles of keeping up a perfect facade was a groundbreaking moment. The conversation allowed her fans to see a different side of her, one that was vulnerable and human. Carson's sensitive questioning allowed Midler to dig deep into the emotional costs of her career, turning what could have been a typical showbiz interview into a heartfelt reflection on the realities of fame. 9. Robin Williams, Comedy as a Shield. Robin Williams was one of the most beloved comedians and actors of his generation. Known for his rapid-fire humor and ability to make audiences laugh until they cried. But behind the jokes, Williams was also deeply affected by personal struggles that would only become more apparent later in his life. During one of his Tonight Show appearances, Williams gave Carson a glimpse into his inner world. In between the laughs and stories, he revealed how his comedy often acted as a shield for his deeper feelings of loneliness and insecurity. Williams spoke candidly about how humor helped him mask his depression, a subject he would later explore more openly in his personal life. The most touching part of the interview came when Williams, while laughing and joking, I mentioned how comedy had been his way of coping with the darkness that lurked within. It was a moment of vulnerability in the middle of a typical whirlwind Robin Williams performance, showing that even the funniest people sometimes use laughter as a mask for deeper pain. Conclusion: Johnny Carson's Tonight Show wasn't just about celebrity appearances, it was about creating a space where truth could emerge in unexpected ways. Over the course of its long run, Carson hosted countless guests, many of whom let their guards down in ways that no one could have predicted. These unplanned, honest moments became the heart of the show and remain etched in the memories of those who watched. For many, these candid conversations were more than entertainment. They were a reminder that even the most famous and accomplished stars had their own struggles and fears. Carson's skill as an interviewer allowed his guests to reveal their true selves, and the world got to witness a side of these stars that was often hidden from the public eye. In the end, it was this willingness to be real, raw, and honest that made The Tonight Show an enduring cultural touchstone and a place where authenticity ruled the stage. In the world of late-night TV, Johnny Carson was unmatched in his ability to coax unforgettable moments from his guests. Some were lighthearted and comedic, but others were raw and revealing. In this continuation, we'll dive into more guests who were too honest for TV, allowing Carson's audience to see a side of their personalities that they rarely showed. 10. Terry Bradshaw, the vulnerable quarterback. Terry Bradshaw, a legendary NFL quarterback, was known for his tough exterior and leadership on the field. But during his Tonight Show appearance, Bradshaw revealed a side of himself that was far from the image of the invincible athlete. Carson and Bradshaw were discussing life after football when the conversation took an unexpected turn. Bradshaw openly admitted how difficult it had been for him to transition from the glory of his NFL career to a life outside the spotlight. He revealed the deep feelings of depression he had faced after retiring, and the toll it took on his mental health. His honesty about dealing with his personal struggles, especially in a public environment, was surprising for someone so accustomed to being a symbol of strength and resilience. It was a moment that showcased Bradshaw's vulnerability and allowed Carson to demonstrate his genuine empathy and support. This interview opened up the conversation around mental health in sports and was a landmark moment in breaking down the stigma around depression, even for athletes who were expected to be invulnerable. 11. Jim Carrey, the dark side of comedy. Jim Carrey, known for his high-energy comedic style, is often regarded as one of the funniest people in the entertainment world. But on The Tonight Show, he offered a glimpse into the more somber side of his personality. Carrey spoke candidly about how he sometimes used humor to deflect from deep-seated feelings of sadness. He admitted that, despite being known for his laughter and jokes, he was often struggling with his inner demons. This moment of honesty revealed a side of Carrey that fans rarely got to see, one that wasn't just about being funny, but about dealing with pain behind the scenes. His transparency about mental health struggles and how comedy served as both a mask and a remedy for his inner turmoil was a poignant moment for both Carson and his audience. Carrey's willingness to open up about his depression, despite his larger-than-life persona, showed that even the brightest stars have their dark moments. 12. Richard Pryor, the battle with addiction. Richard Pryor was one of the most groundbreaking comedians of his time, known for pushing boundaries and addressing difficult topics with humor. However, during his Tonight Show appearance, Pryor spoke with remarkable honesty about his battle with drug addiction, a topic he had not openly discussed in public before. In a raw and revealing interview, Pryor shared the deep struggles he faced with substance abuse, including the personal destruction it caused in his relationships and career. His words were unfiltered, as he admitted the powerlessness he felt in the face of addiction. Pryor's willingness to be open about his addiction in such a public forum was shocking at the time, but it also made him even more relatable to his audience. His story showed that despite his success and fame, he was still human, facing demons just like everyone else. Carson listened with empathy, and the moment became a cornerstone in the discussion about addiction in the entertainment world. Conclusion: as we continue to revisit these powerful interviews, it's clear that Johnny Carson's Tonight Show wasn't just a space for entertainment. It was a stage where some of the most profound moments in celebrity history unfolded. The honesty and vulnerability shown by these stars revealed the human side of fame and allowed audiences to connect with them in a way that few other shows ever did. Through their courage to open up, Carson's guests brought awareness to personal struggles and mental health issues, making their appearances on the show more than just entertainment. They became life-changing moments in the history of television. Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show was a platform where not only laughs, but also raw emotions and unexpected honesty were shared. These candid moments became legendary in TV history, and Carson's masterful interviewing style allowed his guests to open up in ways that were rarely seen in other talk shows. In this next segment, we'll explore more unforgettable guests who couldn't help but reveal personal truths that surprised the world. 13. Kurt Vonnegut, The Weight of War. Kurt Vonnegut, the acclaimed author of Slaughterhouse-Five, was a guest on The Tonight Show, where he offered a hauntingly honest account of his experience as a soldier during World War II. Vonnegut, known for his biting satirical humor, took a more somber approach as he discussed the trauma he faced during the war and its impact on his writing. In a conversation with Carson, Vonnegut shared how the horrors he witnessed in the war, particularly the bombing of Dresden, shaped his worldview and artistic voice. It was a rare moment for Vonnegut, who typically maintained a layer of detachment through his darkly comic works, to reflect on the deep scars left by his experiences. Carson, as always, provided the space for Vonnegut to talk openly about how these formative experiences influenced his creative process. The conversation allowed viewers to understand the weight behind Vonnegut's words and the complexity of the man behind the pen. 14. Ellen DeGeneres, The Coming Out Interview. Before becoming a household name with her own talk show, Ellen DeGeneres was a regular guest on The Tonight Show. However, one of her most powerful and honest moments came when she came out as gay on national television during a 1997 interview with Carson. This moment was groundbreaking, both in terms of its cultural impact and the role that The Tonight Show played in helping DeGeneres make that incredibly personal announcement. While Carson had always been a supportive host, this particular interview was emotionally charged. Ellen shared her fears, not just about her career, but about how the world would react to her truth. It was one of the first times that a high-profile celebrity opened up about their sexuality in such a public and unapologetic manner. The moment was raw, heartfelt, and marked a turning point in both DeGeneres' career and the wider conversation around LGBTQ+ representation in the entertainment industry. Her courage to be so open with Carson and his audience, in a team when coming out, was still met with great skepticism and hostility, changed the landscape for many in Hollywood and beyond. The bravery Ellen showed that night remains one of the most defining moments in The Tonight Show's legacy. 15. Marlon Brando, the reclusive genius. Marlon Brando, one of the most influential actors in the history of cinema, made a rare appearance on The Tonight Show in the 1,970 seconds. Known for his reclusive nature and disdain for the spotlight, Brando's honesty on the show was a striking departure from his usual reticence. During the interview, Brando discussed the pressures of fame and the deep disillusionment he felt with Hollywood. He was candid about how he had grown increasingly disillusioned with the movie industry and its emphasis on commercial success over artistic integrity. In a moment of surprising transparency, Brando admitted to feeling deeply disconnected from the very industry that had made him a star. What made this interview even more striking was the way Brando spoke about his role as an actor. He explained that, while he had always been passionate about his craft, fame itself felt like a burden, and he was uncomfortable with the public's obsession with his personal life. Carson allowed Brando the space to share his frustrations, making this one of the most memorable moments in the show's history. It showed that even the biggest stars, sometimes, grapple with feelings of emptiness and dissatisfaction, despite their monumental success. Conclusion. The series of candid moments shared on The Tonight Show by these guests were not just memorable for their shock value, but for how they reshaped the way the public viewed their favorite stars. Carson's uncanny ability to draw out these unguarded truths changed the late-night talk show landscape, making it a space where personal battles and triumphs could be shared openly. These guests were not just entertainers, they were people with their own struggles, and their moments of honesty helped normalize those conversations for the public. By sharing these personal stories, they broke down the walls between the public and the private, allowing fans to see the real lives behind the public personas. This level of openness, especially at a time when vulnerability wasn't always embraced, paved the way for future generations of celebrities to speak more openly about their struggles and triumphs. Johnny Carson's ability to bring out the unspoken truths from his guests created moments that were both unforgettable and deeply human. These unfiltered conversations allowed Carson's guests to reveal parts of their lives that might have otherwise remained hidden from the public eye. Let's continue exploring more incredible guests who shared brutally honest moments with Carson and made their appearances truly iconic. 16. George Carlin, breaking the taboos. George Carlin was never one to hold back his opinions. But his appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson revealed the depth of his thoughts on society, politics, and culture. Carlin's sharp wit and unapologetic perspective were already well known, but during his interviews with Carson, he often became more candid than expected, especially on the topics of censorship, authority, and societal norms. One of the most memorable moments came when Carlin spoke about the nature of comedy and the responsibility of comedians to push boundaries. He openly discussed how his career had been shaped by the desire to challenge societal taboos, and how humor could be a tool for exposing uncomfortable truths. His honesty about using comedy as a weapon against authority, censorship, and hypocrisy was a powerful moment for viewers. Carson. Known for his sharp interviewing skills, he didn't shy away from Carlin's bold ideas, but instead allowed him the space to expound on them. It was a raw and enlightening moment in late-night TV that showcased Carlin's genius and unapologetic stance on freedom of expression. 17. Liza Minnelli, The Struggles of Stardom. Liza Minnelli, a star known for her iconic performances and as the daughter of the legendary Judy Garland, was always under the scrutiny of the public eye. But during an interview with Johnny Carson, she opened up about the immense pressure of living up to her family legacy and the toll it had taken on her. Minnelli confessed that, despite her fame and success, she often struggled with feelings of inadequacy, particularly due to the constant comparison to her mother, who was an immense talent and a troubled figure. The pressure to live up to her mother's legacy was something that Minnelli had grappled with for much of her life. And in this interview, she was finally able to admit how much it had affected her emotionally. In addition to her familial struggles, Minnelli also talked about her own battles with personal demons, including relationships and substance abuse. Carson listened with empathy, allowing Minnelli to share her vulnerabilities. This interview gave audiences a rare, honest look at the woman behind the legend and allowed her to reveal the emotional complexities that accompanied a life of fame. 18. Sharon Stone, The Price of Sex Appeal. Sharon Stone, known for her provocative roles and sultry screen presence, shocked Carson and the audience with a conversation about the price of her own sexual appeal. During her appearance, Stone was candid about how the entertainment industry often reduced her to just her physical appearance, a reality that had a profound impact on her personal life and career. She shared how her role in Basic Instinct had become a defining part of her career, but also a source of frustration. Stone explained how she was often typecast because of her sex appeal, which led to difficulty finding roles that showcased her talents beyond her looks. In a moment of rare honesty, she admitted that the pressure to maintain a particular eye image was exhausting, and that she often felt trapped by the very fame that had made her a household name. Her openness about the challenges of navigating Hollywood as a woman and the emotional toll of being objectified was a powerful moment. Carson, ever the professional, allowed her the space to share her story, resulting in an enlightening conversation about the realities of fame, especially for women in the industry. Conclusion: the magic of Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show wasn't just about entertaining audiences with jokes or celebrity appearances. It was about creating moments that made the public feel connected to the real lives of the stars they admired. Carson's ability to draw out honesty, vulnerability, and truth from his guests made his interviews memorable and groundbreaking. The 6 guests we've discussed in this series each revealed something deeply personal, showing that fame and success often come with hidden struggles and complexities. Through these candid moments, Carson gave audiences a chance to see the human side of celebrities. And in doing so, he transformed the late-night talk show into a space where authenticity and raw emotion could be shared. As we continue this series on the most unforgettable and honest moments from Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show, we dive deeper into some of the most candid interviews in TV history. Carson's ability to create a comfortable atmosphere for his guests allowed them to reveal their true selves, often in surprising ways. In this segment, we'll take a closer look at even more stars who were incredibly honest and vulnerable on Carson's stage. 19. Jack Nicholson, The Inner Struggles of a Hollywood Icon. Jack Nicholson, one of Hollywood's most legendary actors, was known for his charismatic and often unpredictable persona. But when he appeared on The Tonight Show, he allowed Carson and the audience to glimpse a more introspective side of him. Nicholson, known for playing roles of rebellious and dark characters, spoke candidly about the psychological toll that such roles had on him. During one of his appearances, Nicholson shared how he struggled with the burden of public expectation. He revealed that while he was known for his tough, larger-than-life characters, he often felt overwhelmed by the constant need to portray these strong personalities. Nicholson admitted to feeling a sense of vulnerability that he had rarely shown to the public, explaining how difficult it was to separate his real-life struggles from the roles he played on screen. This interview marked a rare moment of reflection from an actor whose career had largely been defined by intensity and defiance. Carson's respectful approach allowed Nicholson to explore these deeper emotions, showing a side of him that the public had rarely seen before. 20. Jessica Tandy, The Struggles of Growing Old in Hollywood. Jessica Tandy, the acclaimed actress who won an Academy Award for driving Miss Daisy, had a heart-to-heart conversation with Carson about the challenges of aging in Hollywood. As an actress in her later years, Tandy spoke openly about the difficulties of finding meaningful roles for older women in the entertainment industry, a subject that was often overlooked at the TMA. In a poignant moment, Tandy shared how she struggled with the fact that Hollywood's focus on youth often left older actresses, like herself, on the sidelines. She spoke of the frustration she felt at being overlooked for roles that required depth and skill simply because of her age. Tandy's honesty about the limitations that aging imposed on her career was refreshing, and it highlighted the often hidden struggles that older stars face in an industry that favors youth. Carson, who respected Tandy's career immensely, gave her the platform to discuss these real-world challenges. Her vulnerable conversation provided a glimpse into the emotional difficulties of growing older in a profession that values beauty and youth above all else. 21. Hugh Grant, The Scandal That Shook His Image. Hugh Grant, the charming and suave British actor. It became a household name in the 1990 seconds for his roles in romantic comedies. However, during one appearance on The Tonight Show, Grant faced a moment of brutal honesty when he opened up about the scandal that had rocked his career: his 1995 arrest for soliciting a prostitute in Los Angeles. Carson, ever the professional, navigated the sensitive topic with tact, allowing Grant to reflect on the scandal in a way that was both humorous and heartfelt. Grant, known for his quick wit, admitted to his mistake and discussed how it affected both his personal life and his career. In a moment of uncharacteristic candor, Grant spoke about the media fallout and how it made him reassess his life and choices. The interview became an iconic moment in television, as Grant showed his vulnerability and self-awareness. Rather than avoiding the topic, Grant chose to address it head-on, acknowledging his wrongdoing and showing that even celebrities are not immune to making mistakes. Carson's supportive approach allowed Grant to speak freely, and the conversation became a symbol of grace under pressure. Conclusion: Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show was more than just a late-night talk show. It was a space where celebrities could be themselves, share their vulnerabilities, and connect with audiences in a way that wasn't scripted or rehearsed. The moments of honesty we've explored in this series showcase a different side of Hollywood's brightest stars, revealing the human struggles behind their public personas. Whether discussing personal battles with mental health, the challenges of aging, or addressing public scandals, Carson's guests were able to share their truths with an empathetic and supportive host. These raw, honest moments remain some of the most memorable in late-night television history, proving that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that are told without filters.